Joe Rogan, the problem with Joe Rogan, and all the things that are happening with Joe Rogan. We're gonna finally get into it. I had another thing scheduled for today, but a lot of people hit me up about this whole Joe Rogan situation, so we got to talk about it. But first, welcome to the Casual Podcast with your boy Brian, the Casual Brian. We're coming to you live from Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. This particular podcast or stream will not be up on Instagram because last night I did an Instagram live, and I feel like that is plenty to talk about. Or no, that's plenty. So today's stream slash podcast will only be up on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. If you're not following, please be sure to follow because it helps us to grow the page and to grow the podcast so that we can have more interesting people on and have more interesting conversations. All right. So today was, like I was saying a little bit, today was supposed to be my boy Ryan Knock. We had a great conversation last week, and I'll drop that tomorrow. But I thought that, or I think that this conversation about Joe Rogan needs to happen because I've had a lot of people reach out to me and say, Brian, what are your thoughts on Joe Rogan? Um, and so the short answer is it's complicated. You know what I mean? The short answer is that it is complicated. Um, why is it complicated? That in itself is complicated, but I'm going to do my best to kind of break down my issues with the whole Joe Rogan problem or the whole Joe Rogan situation because it's a whole situation. You know what I mean? There's multiple layers to it and there's multiple elements to it. But let's get into it. So I'm gonna work my way backwards. Joe Rogan is in trouble again, and let's be clear, he is in trouble this time, and you can know that he's in trouble by the amount of people making posts saying I stand with Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is a good person. And I respect those people because they're friends with Joe Rogan. They've benefited from his platform. They've benefited from knowing him. Now is the time, if your friend was in trouble, to stand up and speak up for your friend. So we know Joe Rogan is in trouble. Um, it's a little complicated because if he was on like CNN or ABC or like one of these mainstream channels, we would be able to see more of a clear cut action in response to these old videos. But because he's on Spotify and we know Spotify's not doing anything, it's going to be difficult. There are places though that we can see, like he has two specials up on Netflix. He has clips that are still on YouTube. He has a Twitter account, although he hasn't, I don't believe, broken the Twitter terms of service. So that would be a stretch. He doesn't really do a lot of commercial work, so I don't know. I don't really understand. I don't really know what canceling him or disciplining him looks like. But so that we know that he's in trouble. Recently, the thing that got him, and it sucks, is there's a video of him saying the N word over 70 times in different situations. It's not like one time, one act, one crazy podcast. It's 70 times from different podcasts. And then also he made a joke that described a black neighborhood, I believe it was in Detroit, as the Planet of the Apes. So these got him. He's been swerving all of this other controversy, but this got him. I mean, with the even with the misinformation, he came out and said, I could have done better. It wasn't necessarily an apology; it was just more of an acknowledgement that I could do better and I could make the situation better. But this video, full on apology. Um, I was wrong. I've changed my way of thinking, and you know what? I'm here for it. And let me get out and say this, because I think before people can get caught up, pardon me, people can get caught up. I still support Joe Rogan. I do not think Joe Rogan is a racist man. I do not think that Joe Rogan is a hateful man. I think that he can be crude. I think that he makes jokes that are chauvinistic. But I don't think that he is in any way the man that people are trying to make him out to be. Aaron Rodgers is that guy. Djokovic is that guy. But Joe's not that guy, in my opinion. So let's get back into it, though. He said those things, you know? Now, here's the problem: the left and progressives and Democrats are 100% coming for Joe Rogan. Period. They are 100% coming. People like The View, people like CNN. These people are they're coming for Joe Rogan. They want to see him uh, in trouble. They want to see him deplatformed. They want to see his voice silenced. That is fact. That is not in dispute. You can say the reasons why, you can make your case, but what you cannot dispute is that the left is coming for him. People don't realize this is actually the third time they've come for Joe Rogan. They came the first time was not with the misinformation around COVID. The first thing that they came for him was just being they called him a gateway into the alt right. Joe Rogan could be a gateway into anything. I found out about Andrew Yang from Joe Rogan. I've seen a couple or several progressive people on Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is not one thing, and he used to be more of another thing. Now, I think that he's allowed this feud with the media to kind of turn him into something that he's not. Um, I do think he's hard headed and like in respect to you're not going to tell him what he can and cannot do. And that was the whole argument, not argument, but that was the whole discussion around the actual N-word. See, and this is another issue I have. These news outlets are terrible at giving context. Why? Because they don't want you to have context, because they want to tell you what it is. They want to tell you how to think, and they want to tell you their narrative, which I hate. And this is not just Fox, it's not just CNN, it's not just MSNBC, it's all of them. It's all entertainment now, and so that's why people turn to places like Joe Rogan. You should not be consulting Joe Rogan for medical advice. And he says it all the time. You shouldn't be consulting me. You shouldn't be consulting the next person that you have a lot of respect for what they have to say. These are just personalities giving you their opinion. Maybe you can look into what they've said. That's totally fine. If Joe Rogan says something and you want to look into it, that's totally fine. But to just take his word, I've seen things that said Joe Rogan has saved lives. He hasn't saved any lives. So it's complicated because on one hand, the left has no credibility because they're just stringing together attacks trying to get him. They don't care what each of these individuals. I don't think the left gives a flying crap about Joe Rogan saying the N word, and I can know this because th- Joe Rogan has not done anything or said anything new. This is all old stuff. And if you happen to be African American and you like Joe Rogan, you've heard him say it. You've heard him say these things. I've seen the clips. I remember watching the clips in real time, and I hated them. I understood the point. I get it. I understand that the context of what he's saying. But every time I heard him say the word, I hated it. I wrote in the comments, I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. I think some of his friends should have got with him and said, "Hey, Joe, I don't think this is a good look." Maybe they did because he said he stopped saying it. You know, Joe Rogan is not a victim, unfortunately. Now it's hard to side with the left. It's hard to rock with the left or agree with the left because it's obvious that it's a hit job out on him. But unfortunately, he said what they said. And he didn't just say it once. It's a hard ER, people. You know? Sometimes people talk about rap lyrics and this and that. Hard. Joe Rogan went hard in the paint 70 times, 70 plus times hard ER. He is no victim. Now, can we have grace? Can we have forgiveness? Can we say that the man made a mistake and we believe he learned from it? Sure. I completely accept his apology. There was no fudge. There was no finesse in that apology. That was real, like, I messed up. I screwed up. I should not have said that word, which was the whole point. But then you got people like The Rock. That's so lame, man. The Rock, oh, I'm gonna, good apology first round. And I would love to have a conversation. Okay, well, if you want to have a conversation with the man. It's all this PR trying to exploit him. The Rock wasn't, and see, let's make this clear. The Rock was not offering to go on the podcast out of goodwill. He wants to go on the podcast because Joe Rogan has millions of followers. Millions of people listen to this guy. You don't think Rock wanted to go on there and talk with him and have a podcast that gets millions of views? Maybe plug another one of his jungle movies. You choose the plot. I I just feel like if you've never seen anything from Joe Rogan, which is another issue, people upset with Joe Rogan who've never watched any of his stuff. You have none of the context. Context matters. Joe Rogan is not a hateful person. He is not a racist person. He's not a spiteful person. He just can be an idiot at times, like we all can. You know what I mean? A perfect example of this is The Rock, who wanted to back away from Joe Rogan, but then they found a clip instantly of The Rock uh, mocking Asian people, mocking Chinese people. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? Why don't we all just start dropping these stones in our hands? Everyone was an idiot on Twitter, and you think you deleted it, but it's still there. I'm not for canceling people, but now here's a very interesting situation. I had the honor and the privilege of walking through with my wife Darcel, looking at what happened with Whoopi Goldberg. Now, a conversation we had is, and I agree with this statement, every race thinks that they're getting it the worst or a little bit worse than everyone else, you know? And as a black man, I definitely think that. But when you talk to somebody who is not looking at life through the lens that you are, you're not seeing things the same. This was a good chance to look objectively at how the system treats black versus other um, protected classes, protected groups. Whoopi said something that was not right. She was instantly suspended. Instantly. The next day. Apology didn't matter. Nothing mattered. She was suspended. I've already talked about it. I hate it. I think it's ridiculous. I think to downplay Whoopi's whole life and focus in on that. I mean, I'm not here to defend it, but what it's crazy to me is like some people were saying they found her comments to be hateful, hateful. So we have an example of a black woman. She said something that is against Jewish people or that the Jewish community took offense to, instantly suspended. We have Joe Rogan. He is I don't know, the N word 70 plus times. He apologized for it. Let's see what happens. If nothing happens, my point is made. And at the same time, I don't want anything to happen. I don't want anything to happen to Joe Rogan. I don't think anything should happen to Joe Rogan. I think he apologized. I think he's not that person anymore. I think that person was stupid, but only stupid with respect to that point. I've heard many intelligent, kind, interesting conversations from Joe Rogan at the same time that he was blazing the N word. I just kind of feel like where were his friends? You know, his black friends. Did nobody like pull Joe to the side and say, "Hey, Joe, maybe it's not a good. I get what you're saying, but maybe it's not a good look." Also, I'm very curious as to the silence of Dave Chappelle. Now, it's very possible that Dave said, "Hey, Joe, do you want me to say something?" I mean, I'm not loved by the left. I don't know if it'll make it better, but nothing, not a word. The only black celebrity that I've seen two. One is not very well known, but he's somebody, and another is Walt Harris. Both are not very well known. I'm waiting to see if Chappelle's going to say something. I'm surprised he hasn't said something um, thus far. I would have thought he would have come out in support of Joe. But I get it, man. It's a complicated situation, you know? It's a very complicated situation. Joe is he's in it. And it's sad. It's sad to see Joe Rogan in this situation. I don't think he's a victim. I don't feel sorry for him having to account for that because he said that word so casually, and it was it was a complete disrespect of the history of the word. That being said, it sucks that he got caught by this. You know what I mean? Like I would have loved for him to come to a place where he just said, without getting busted or having the compilation, you know what, guys? Back in the day, I used to think it was okay for me to say the N word as long as the context was right. But I don't think that that's right. That's wrong. And I won't do that anymore. And now we know that. That's why he's not doing it. You know what I'm saying? Now it just seems like, well, he got busted and people put the pressure on him. But if he would have came out without any pressure, without anyone saying anything and say, look, I've changed, then that's even better. I think that might even be the move. If you said some messed up stuff or whatever, I don't know. It's interesting. I don't think Joe's going to be canceled because it's like, how do you cancel him? And then I'm going to finish with this to my friends on the left, to the people that consider themselves progressive. What is it? What is your goal? What is the point? What will be accomplished by canceling Joe Rogan? What will be accomplished by canceling Dave Chappelle? What will be accomplished by canceling Whoopi Goldberg? At this point, we have to ask ourselves, is that what we want to be about? Is that who we want to be? The party that just cancels people whenever we're offended, you know? And let's not forget this part. I've seen people laughing when it was not about them, when it was not about their particular protected class. Black jokes, ha ha. Mexican jokes, ha ha ha. If it's about women, maybe I'm getting a little upset. It depends. It's about LGBTQ. Now I'm getting upset. You cannot enjoy offensive comics and offensive humor if when it gets to you, you're offended. If you don't like offensive humor, don't watch offensive humor. I get that. There's clean comics. There's uh comics that don't make their living being offensive. But if their whole thing is being offensive, why are you getting offended? It makes no sense to me. So we'll see what happens with Joe. My guess is he's in trouble. And it's just by the amount of people that have come out to make videos in support of him. Will they cancel him? Can they cancel him? I don't know. I don't know how you cancel Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is kind of like an immovable object or unstoppable object. I know that we don't want to make an enemy of Joe Rogan. He's now an enemy of mine. I think that, like I said, I've seen many brilliant, loving conversations on his show, and I am going to scale back. I have scaled back what I watch, but if there are interesting conversations, I'm going to always want to see that because I want to get my own context. I don't want to be told what's happening and how to think. So those are my thoughts. Hopefully that hopefully that gives you some clarity. Um, but I would say like this, like I said on my stream yesterday or my live yesterday. If you've never seen anything from Joe Rogan, look him up. He's on Spotify. That's the best place to see his whole catalog. And look up a particular person that you like, and listen to their conversation. And then see if he is the person that you think he is. You know? Let's start taking some time to actually see who people are. I think that's going to make things better. Thank you for listening on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. To the people listening on the podcast, thank you so much. If you're just getting in and you missed it, the podcast will be up. It should be up on all the pages. And I'm going to release the audio only today around 4 or 5. So thank you so much again. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. And until the next time, stay casual. We got Ryan Knock tomorrow, part 1 of Ryan Knock tomorrow.